everyone, to another stock market open live stream. So today we've got, well, another green day, a lot of enthusiasm since Donald Trump once again yesterday told us stocks are going way up. And interestingly, it seems like if you say one time stocks are going up and then stocks go up on a deal, and then you say again, stocks are going up, and then you get a China deal, and then you say it again, people kind of start believing it. And stocks are doing quite well, and have been doing quite well since about the second to third week of April. So let's take a peek at some of the movements here. This morning we've got the Qs up another 45 basis points. The Qs really are in this no man's land right now between basically all-time highs around the 540 range and 493. And that didn't stop this larger movement yesterday at all in the Qs, which was great. But you've even got Tesla. I mean, the 318 line was a pretty important line, and we got some nice bounces over here. But it looks to me like now we're coming up on 347, which this is pretty impressive. I mean, we're going line to line to line over here on Tesla. And let's see here. We've got, Super Micro's been moving as well. Let's take a peek at Super. Look at that, 17% on Super Micro. A lot of enthusiasm also because of the Saudi chip deal, potentially exporting, 1 million deals through the Middle East, which, by no means are ever going to make it over to China. So that's exciting for China. I mean, for, countries in the Middle East. And then there's a lot of build out enthusiasm continuing with Super. Let's take a peek as well here. We've got, in terms of any particular news here, we've got a $20 billion data vault partnership at Super Micro as well. Let's take a look at what the heck this is. So what do we got here? Let's see. Super Micro, the deal valued at $20 billion is expected to fast track. Okay, come on. Fast track the delivery of ultra-dense GPU platforms and rack systems for Data Vault's hyperscale AI campuses in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There you go, $20 billion deal to fast track AI campuses, they're calling them, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We're excited to partner with Data Vault and continue expanding our manufacturing efforts. Well, everywhere in the world is going to have data centers. So, Super Micro, which I think, let's see how Nvidia is doing in pre-market as well. Let's see here. You've got, another 3% in pre-market on Nvidia on some of this chip deal move here. So, I mean, Nvidia's on its way back to all-time highs as well. 154, I want to say. Maybe it was 64. Let me see here. It was 149. There it is, 153.73. Yeah, 153.73. So basically 154. That's what I had in my mind as well. I mean, it's just been a rocket ship for Nvidia really since, there's exactly the third week of April. Though you sort of had this little bit of a double dip here, sort of this literal W kind of recovery on it, with April 7th being a little bit lower than the April 21st here. So another 3% here on Nvidia. Again, Supermicro doing well. Qs, about 40 basis points. You've got, what is this? HIMS, 1.7. Airbnb. They announced yesterday this, what's it called? Services announcement where basically they'll, if you set up to stay at an Airbnb or whatever, they make it easier for you to get your hands on some services like a professional chef or photographer or whatever straight through the app. I actually think it's kind of brilliant. Obviously they're looking for more revenue sources in a time where it seems like there's a bit less travel going on, but good for them, especially outside of the hotel space. They really blew up during COVID. Tempest AI continues its rocket ship. And we called this rocket ship right around earnings about a week and a half ago in the Meet Kevin report and it in the Alpha report. And boy, it has been a rocket ship since then. And just almost daily. And, we were advocating even on Monday for call options on this one. And then, of course, the week before that as well. But on Monday, we were even reiterating call options for next Friday on this. And this one just keeps going like a rocket ship. So really really good movement here. Then let's see, Open Door sitting around 70 cents. It's been bobbing around there. BTC has been pretty stable. Palantir, another one. I think we just hit all-time highs on it because on, let's see, May 5th, we touched 130. Let me go back. 125 was our peak over here. Yeah, so we're at all-time highs right now on Palantir. 131 in the pre-market with, you're basically sitting at 131 right now. So pretty much right there. Let's see. Then Dutch Bros. What else is moving this morning? AppLovin keeps moving after that short report took them down to like 190, if I remember correctly. Oh, look at this volatility index since Trump tariffs. Yeah, well, no kidding. Let's take a listen.
During that time in which there was a pause. But I think over the last week to 10 days, 2 weeks, there's certainly been a return back to business, let's say. I'm not saying we're back to where we were.
Well, the S&P is, but the question is business
on the deal
confidence.
market, right. And I do think it was an interesting, there was a title of one of the research reports I saw that said, we are now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I thought that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, okay, back to business. I think the announcement over China in Geneva over the weekend by Scott Bessent and Jameson Greer, I think did add to the fact that, hey, we're going to live with some tariffs. And as we know, Bessent has been continuous in saying, hey, we're going to have 10%. The president as well. Right. So I think people are sort of putting that into place. Look, and you've got in our business, on the sponsor side of things, a lot of fundamentals that still are in place. I mean, if you've got sponsors that are sitting there with, let's say, 40 portfolio companies where regular state is 25, they got to transact, and so I do think, discussions are ongoing and I'm much more optimistic, but in an impacted way, given what's going on.
Okay. You want to weigh in on the plane?
No, no, but I do want to say it's such classic activity by, an individual like President Trump, who has been incredibly artful using the media. And, it's this political dynamic. The more you spend time on that plane.
Wasting time talking about the plane.
Right. The more you spend time on that plane, the stronger he gets in terms of people saying, you see, this is what the media is about. They can't get enough of it. Clicks and eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Trump, I agree, is sort of like the master of media attention. It's kind of quite entertaining. It's pretty incredible. So, all right. So let's see what else here. Martin says, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're able to. Oh, well, thank you for that. Someone else says, I love stonks. I was thinking about naming the title of this video stonks. Let's see here. Misa says there's haters talking about house. It's funny when you look at a hater's channel and they like to, talk about house high. We're usually the best views they get. They're their best TV. So, and it's incredible because the stuff people make up is so far-fetched, but it's incredible. So somebody here says, sold my Tesla today. Like your car or your stock? Let's see here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Do you believe we could be in the complacency cycle of the market? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, absolutely. There's a real potential that the market is basically assumed that there is zero damage of what's occurred in April, and hopefully that's the case. But we won't know until June, July, and then of course there's always the likelihood that the market will try to look through that. It's all going to come down to, will unemployment rise or not? And if not, if we get no unemployment rise over the next 3 or 4 months from some of the shatter effects of the start of this trade war, as well as consumption uncertainty, then we might be able to stick that soft landing, finally confirm it. I'd say that's something that's very real and possible within the next 3 months. But you could also break the other way. So we will see. Ian says, LOL, you wanted us to invest in House Hack for a 5% gain. LOL, you obviously must not understand how the investment works, because it's a 5% annual yield plus upside in the stock. So it's sort of like, imagine if Tesla offered you a 5% yield and whatever upside in the stock, right? Just as an example. But it is hard when you just listen to like a one-liner and you don't actually understand something before you start talking about it. So I guess I can't blame you for misunderstanding. So let's see here. Let's see. Alcatraz is going to be tremendous. It's the best prison ever. Nobody does lockups like me. Yeah. It's Jack really liked his trip to Alcatraz. He cut his own version of the Alcatraz edit together yesterday and put it on his Meet Jack channel. It's pretty awesome. Can you give us your thoughts on Webull? It dropped a lot in the last several days and hasn't run with the rest of tech stocks. Yeah, so Webull, I actually mentioned this when they went public. They have such a small amount of their float outstanding. Now, really what happened is they momentumed up. They don't really have that momentum anymore right now. So it's not a surprise to see the bleed out. In fact, publicly and in the Meet Kevin Alpha Report, which remember, you can join that membership at meetkevin.com and you get access to it every morning before the market opens up. I talked about how bull was likely just going to momentum the way Newsmax did. And it literally pulled a Newsmax. It did the same thing as Newsmax, where we got, the momentum spike up and then the bleed out. Here's Newsmax. Webull did the same thing. So people are going to be very excited, I think, about the eToro IPO, because I think there's going to be a belief that it's also going to do the same thing. I don't know if that's for sure true, but I would expect with two of the largest recent IPOs, basically momentuming up and then dumping, I would expect that's possible as well for eToro. So, something to keep in mind. Zim keeps moving. Look at that. Nice. So Zim's up now from 14 to about $18 in pre-market. Nice move there. So let's see here. Somebody says eToro is trash. Ouch. 30-year yield up 494. Yeah, that is something that's interesting too, is you actually increase the tightness in financial conditions mostly for small caps that have a lot of debt. So that'll be very interesting to see. Let's see. Yeah, which specific hard data are you looking at when you're talking about the New York Fed quarterly report on household debt? What we've been seeing is, people's excess savings relative to COVID is now vastly negative. And a lot of people comparing sort of financial conditions back to 2019 and really pre-COVID, but markets were fine then. We had a trade war then too, and we got out of that just fine. So hate tubers only get you more clicks too. Yeah, I'm from Canada. Can we invest in House Hack too? Yeah, well, actually, the Canadians are our most popular international investor. So pretty awesome. The Radio Killer Dream says House Hack is not Tesla. LOL. No shit. Well, I didn't realize that making an analogy, I would have to say, by the way, to be clear, House Hack is a separate company. It's in the real estate space and it's different. Okay, it doesn't manufacture cars. I didn't even think I would have to disclaim that, but you're right. My goodness, please read the disclosures because they're different. Larry Lee, poor Kevin just hates to see Trump do good for America. Just can't come to terms that he's a great president doing great things, Oh, poor Larry Lee. It must be so hard to get through your head that tariffs are an economic disaster and terrible for economies. It must be so hard to understand that we have the highest tariffs since the 1930s. And it must be so hard to understand that tariffs are 15 times higher than what they were on China before the tariffs on a trade-weighted basis. It must be so hard to understand that our goods are being tariffed at 5x what they were tariffed at before the tariffs. It must be so hard to understand the economics of dead weight loss and the damage that causes to our economy. It must be so hard to understand those facts because all you're looking at are green sticks going up because Donnie is pumping the stock market. But you know what? Who cares if we're making money? It's okay. And so therefore, don't say anything bad about my president's stupid policies. Okay, it's my president. I voted for him. It's really hard to separate you. You know, I always love the comments when people are like, wait, but Kevin, I thought you were mad at Trump and now you're happy about Trump. And people are like, people don't realize that I don't give a flying F about your politician. I care about facts and data. But for Larry Lee, another bot, it's really hard. It's so hard to understand that there's nuance in finance. All right, so what else do we have here? So we have what's your take on Enphase? You know, I've talked about Enphase like every single day for like the last 2 years, and basically the answer is always the same. It's you can't really invest in any of these like solar housing related solar plays because people just buy electricity from the grid when rates are too high, right? So that's what makes solar so hard is because it's not an like solar makes sense when you can finance it for 0% or whatever because you're competing against the grid. And when you can finance solar at zero and you save an expensive grid bill, it makes sense. There's an ROI. But when you're financing it at 8 or 9%, it makes less sense. You're better off financing your vacation to Europe than you are financing solar panels. So this is why we've said, Enphase is probably on its way to 35. And I've been saying 35 probably for about a year now. And it's been trending in that direction. So that's something interesting to keep in mind. So let's see. Anduril, I mean, I think that what they're doing is great. So let's see here. NASDAQ will make all-time high no later than May 30th, says DeOrio. DeFiro, however to say it. JR says, but everyone said DeepSeek was the end of AI. Well, I think you have to remember that the DeepSeek moment was a very critical moment of scaling AI in a substantially less expensive way than it's been scaled previously, especially for not necessarily for training, but also for inference, which is a big deal because a lot of people are like, oh, well, we need all the chips for inference. I think isn't BMW partnering with DeepSeek to have DeepSeek in their cars? I still think that the AI moment is a little overblown. I'm not saying don't invest in chip stocks or whatever, but it's encyclopedic, and at some point, I think markets will realize there's a plateau to how much we can really advance with it. Although there are some great things that are being done with big data, which companies were very skeptical of before, and are now opening up to. I mean, this is what Palantir talks about in their earnings call, right? Is this big opening up of data that companies were afraid to open up on before, and I think that's really what is where the sort of true potential is not necessarily this exponential gain in AI, but actually unlocking data that previously hasn't been accessible to AI, and then working it with that. And that I think is really great. I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing Palantir doing so well as well. And I think it's quite entertaining. because you hear them talk about this, and then people bag on Palantir as well. Certainly the valuation could be high, which I agree with, but people bag on Palantir, but I'm like, I mean, what they're doing is actually kind of incredible. So let's see here. Yeah, first name, last name. We've talked about this many times. People, try to clown on HouseHack, and they're like, Kevin took a loan from HouseHack. I've never borrowed a single dollar from HouseHack and received cash from HouseHack. It's never happened. Like it is. We're talking about founder shares, like when the company is formed, like the initial shares, and that's just the way it's recorded. But like there are no. It's not like HouseHack is like, oh, here, Kevin, here's a small loan, and now it's forgiven in cash. It's not what it is. These are shares. We've talked about this before, and so that's just the way it's accounted for. And again, it's all fully disclosed. We've talked about it many times before. We talked about it last year too, and people circle back to the same bullshit over and over again. And it's kind of funny because, again, our serious investors who watch what we're doing in HouseHack and our HouseHack earnings call, they're increasing their investments. First round investors are like, this is great, I'm investing in the second round. Let's see, sticks up for Harambe. Harambe. So what else do we have here? Institutions aren't buying this rally. Well, I think institutions probably already bought the rally, which I think is really interesting because they were so unallocated in mid-April that I think when the market really turned, it's when you saw the private JP Morgan meeting with Besant, that insider meeting, when the insiders got the thumbs up from Besant that things were going to be good, that's when you really saw this rally. And I thought that was fascinating to see that sort of U-turn really gets started from this institutional side. So I think that's very interesting because you really, that was the moment. Insiders got the heads up. We saw the market start rallying, and I think a lot of institutions actually started, allocating at that point, and then you kind of got both sides FOMOing in. So it's been pretty incredible. Kevin, will inflation continue for the rest of the year? Well, I think that, you have to see what bump we get from tariffs, because there will be some form of a bump from tariffs. We don't know how large that's going to be, mostly because a lot of consumer businesses insulated themselves with an inventory ramp up before. But then you also have this, potential lingering effect of the 10 to 30% tariffs, right? 10 on the rest of the world and 30 on China. And so we'll see how much that actually ends up. Paraz Warmy says, only problem with HouseHack is Kevin's credibility. What? If you don't like my credibility, then don't invest in HouseHack. I think I've been first of all, my credibility, when you look at my history of real estate investments, flawless. I mean, go back, look at the history of how much I covered real estate, wedge deals, and investing in real estate. But people who've watched my channel since 2017, where I took, then at that point, the 7 or 8 years of real estate experience and showed that all on YouTube and showed how we were taking that and expanding it even more. Every deal we've done was great. Now, some deals had mistakes, some deals, weren't great before even HouseHack. And so there was so much knowledge that we took into HouseHack on real estate. It's really incredible. I mean, you can watch us analyze real estate deals in the course member live streams, or just go back through the old real estate videos. They're really incredible. They're all still on YouTube. And the people who've watched those, they know that what we do in real estate is great. It's usually just people who come here, who watch the haters, and they're like, but FTX collapse. Yeah. Okay. And how many videos did we make before the collapse saying, hey, things are shady here, it's time to get out? How many warnings did we give about FTX? a lot. So, could anybody have known going in? No, of course not. Everybody got bamboozled. Tom Brady got bamboozled. The NFL's referees wearing FTX merch got bamboozled. Everybody got bamboozled by a fraud. And that's why that person's in prison now, right? So it's amazing because you get people who take like these little, stupid, like situations that you can't even fault anybody for, but they're like these little 18-year-olds who haven't expanded their brain yet. No offense to other 18-year-olds, but who are like, but you were involved in a mistake that you could have done nothing about it, and yeah, you warned us, but you were still associated. It's like, oh my gosh, it must just really have like serious like mental retardation. I mean, maybe visit a doctor because the IQ level has fallen so far off the cliff. You might need a little support. So it's really incredible. But when you look back at like people's careers, I want to say there's one person that I'm really inspired by. This lady, Rose Blumin. Has anybody ever heard of her? It's really interesting. I'll tell you really quickly. Rose Blumin. She sold her Nebraska furniture mark. She sold about 90% of it to Warren Buffett, I think in 1989. And then over the next like 3 years, she sold the rest of her business to Warren Buffett and then went into retirement at 94 years old. Think about this, retired at 94. 3 months after she retired and sold her business to Warren Buffett, she came out of retirement to launch a competing business to the business she sold to Warren Buffett across the street from Warren Buffett, from the Nebraska Furniture Mart. I think it was Mrs. B's like clearance or whatever, and went back into business, made that business profitable, and ended up getting bought by Warren Buffett a second time. Honestly, so incredible. I think it's such a remarkable story, and people. Not every single person in the world had wonderful things to say about her. But people with a real like brain, they're like, wow, you know what? Respect for the people who try, who fight, who show up every day. Good for them. Are people going to be perfect and have a crystal ball? Of course not. But it's really, those are the kinds of people I respect, compared to like dumbasses in the comments or like random bots. Do you know how much a comment is worth, by the way? I can tell you the value of a comment. You could get 10 human-like bot comments for 55 cents. So they'll basically have like armies of people, I don't know, in the Philippines or whatever. And each comment is worth about 5.5 cents. So you could buy a comment for a bundle. 55 cents buys you 10. So think about that. If you spend $5,000 and you're like, go hate on this person for the entire year, okay? This is the value of a comment. $5,000 at a value of divided by 0.055. That's right, 5 cents. You could get 90,900 comments for $5,000. And then if you tell someone, now spread those out over a year to always hate on somebody and bring up stupid low IQ stuff, that would be 249 hate comments per day. So think about that. If you wanted to hire a bot farm to write realistic human-like comments, it would only cost you $5,000 to send 249 of those every single day for a year. And what's remarkable about that is I think politicians do that. They leave, they sign up these bot farms to like clown on people who don't align with their political outlook. And it's very interesting to think about that. So next time you're leaving like a low IQ comment, just think the value of your comment is about, 5.5 cents to bot farms. So it's kind of interesting. I think that's fascinating insight. Anyway, they've got their 6 o'clock transition here. Let's listen in.
This is like one of those situations where just on its face, you say to yourself, doesn't make a lot of sense. Meantime, Dow Jones looking higher this morning, about to open in about a half an hour, about 46 points higher. The NASDAQ up about 46 points as well. And guess what? The S&P 500 up about 10 points. I was going to say, I will see you
Run it out
in a couple of days.
There's so little to say. They're running out of things to say too.
Tomorrow morning. I'll see you from there. Make sure you join us tomorrow. Squawk on the Street begins right now.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Jim Cramer, David Faber at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. S&P NASDAQ now positive for the year. Pre-market continues to build on this historic bounce. Presidents in Doha, Ways and Means approves a budget markup after an all-nighter. We'll get more Fed speak today. Our roadmap begins with stocks back in the green.
No, Trump has not pardoned the FTX guy. It's really interesting. It's because he's begging for it too. I've been here since 2019. Kevin is spot on way more than. Oh, thank you for saying that. That's awesome. So DeFerrio says credibility is very strong. Your credibility is very strong. Just don't take it for granted. Trust is lost in a minute and takes years to build. I'm following you since 2020 when you had around 150 subscribers. Yeah, and I think that's where people realize that I'm here every day to clarify my opinions through either videos or live streams or whatever. And I do that because, people misunderstand a lot. People are like, but, Kevin, are you flipping bullish? Obviously, like the data that we've been getting over the last 4 months is actually bullish. So my bear bull scale has increased. I'm at about a 3-4, which is still on the bearish side. Mostly because we have to get through, in my opinion, the shell shocks of what happened in April. So I don't think we're out of the woods by any means, and obviously the market isn't discounting for any kind of downside right now. But this is an interesting angle. Okay, it's just gonna throw stuff. See, this is what happens when there's no news. They zoom in on Jimbo throwing stuff. But I think it's very interesting because, again, people in just who click on a video for 2 seconds and leave a comment, they're like, oh, every day it's different. It's actually very consistent, and I always like to clarify that for the people who actually have a brain and listen. Since the end of 2022, we've been talking Nike swoosh recovery. I got bearish on unemployment data in July of 24. So that means I was bullish for over, what is that? About 2 years, roughly 2 years, a little under 2 years. And I've been more cautious on data since July. And if we could get through this, this sort of April drama, then I think American exceptionalism is very real. And this 27-week unemployed balance, the leveling off of jolts, these are things that are very, very rare historically. Historically, when you see rapid increases in the 27-week unemployed level, in jolts and hiring and quits, you see things that are aligning with recessionary environments when you're coming out of a deeply inverted yield curve, implying 500 basis points of cuts in the next few years, and the steepening of the yield curve. What that usually implies, when we look at these sort of data sets, the market doesn't care at all. The market's straight up right now on enthusiasm, but those are still very real data sets that in the future, let's say we're in 2035, so 10 years from now, and we look back at these data sets and say, oh wow, like the writing was on the wall. Everything that we're seeing now could still be a 2007 or 2008 style bear market rally because of those underlying data points. No, obviously we're still coming off strong Q1 data, and hopefully jobs data holds up. But that's something to pay attention to. It's not clearly out of the woods, and the market's basically discounting no downside. So that's something to pay attention to. But in the meantime, you could shorter term. I've been very bullish since about April 20th, right around there, when we advocated in the course live, like, hey, this. After this Besson meeting, trailing stops for what you've got, because we could be straight up after that Besson meeting. That Besson meeting was a really big U-turn. Look back at the timing of that Besson meeting. Actually, I'm going to do it right now because I think it's so interesting. JPM private meeting Besson. Let's see that April 23rd. That's really, no, 22nd. That's what it was. Because the people were talking about it for days after that. Treasury Besson met with JPM privately, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Wow. Yep. That's really incredible. That's part of the sort of W recovery there. Really interesting. Let's listen into Jimbo for a moment. He's talking about Palatizzle.
What is that? Remember, it's a podcast. You have to say something.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I'm just saying, be careful. Let them come in. That's all I'm saying. Let them come in. Because we all know that these stocks are up on the same news. And I think you have to have new news to have it go up. Big contracts today again by the president, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this is a function, Jim, of a market that twists and turns on individual, one man whims, some say. Washington Post, amazing piece today looking at why there was this reversal on China. It was beginning to hit arguably Trump's base. 50 times since Inauguration Day, the administration has issued either a new or a revised tariff policy.
Jeez, well, I think that the bottom was called. David and I were talking. We were talking about the idea of the consolidation of the government into one branch, executive, and the market was going down. And that's when he did the True Social. You know, great time to buy. He called the bottom within 2 hours.
By the way,
this guy
people have said you do want the president should be your financial advisor. He told you to buy stocks last week too.
Like you're,
and if you had, you'd be up. You're nice.
And 2 weeks ago today, it was Biden's stock market.
It was.
That was the Biden stock market.
We switched that.
That's when it went away.
You listen to Mike Wilson. I listen to President Trump. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You can have Wilson all you want, Mr. Wilson.
Although Wilson's positive too, isn't
he?
Yes.
No, but I'm saying that you're trying to, you can have Dan Ives. I like Dan Ives.
Well, Dan Ives says that the Riyadh show was an eye-opener for tech investors.
Right, but that was already. Again, I'm coming back to, I'm trying to be a little more circumspect to our viewers. You might get a better chance to buy stocks that are just up because like someone heard that things were good.
You might, but we've got a lot of momentum right now. You've got a lot of the quantitatively driven funds. They love momentum. As I said, you got a lot of young guys in pods.
Well, if
who
they
are
love
just
momentum,
like, hey, you know
if they
what?
love momentum, they should buy CoreWeave.
They've got memories of 20 minutes, and things are great.
Well, they have memory of a mayfly?
No, yeah. Memories are short.
Meantime, Jim, another.
I mean, they've been looking at this thing their entire life. How long do you think their memory
How he
is?
switched, the president,
Right.
this is his rally.
At the same time,
He's like Marty Zweig. Remember
you got Foxconn
remember
guiding
Mark
below. You got AEO pulling guides, right?
AEO, I've decided, is the second rater because so many companies are actually doing better. There was a PVH upgrade today. Ralph Lauren, people realize Ralph Lauren's got a good quarter. I don't know. All I say, David, is that a lot of these are catch-up trades. That China, not so bad. You can suddenly get stuff cheap. So the gross margins go up. Is that value added?
Not necessarily.
No, it's not. That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't have a value added reason to buy what I liked yesterday or the day before.
Yardeni today, we're now at 21 times. You had like 5 minutes to buy it 18 times.
Yeah, you did have that window of opportunity.
The president told you.
I know, he told you to buy.
He buy.
Look, he let everybody in at the same time.
Yes.
He did not let the big hedge funds in earlier.
Nope. He gave
Right? They didn't get the call.
across the board. Great time to buy
Right.
stocks.
Yeah, I thought it was.
And it was.
The disclosure was perfect.
Right. You think he'll ever come out with a sell signal? I don't.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if it goes down big and because Biden,
Yes.
Biden puts
Taking
stocks
to sell.
that he heard that Biden said doesn't like the market.
This is just, it's kind of on the slow news days, like yesterday and today. They got little. Let's listen to here.
Forecast twice since last Friday. David Kostin there first, moving it up to 5,900 by the end of the year, and then 6,100 after the trade deal with China. And then also Ed Yardeni, I just caught up with him yesterday. He said that he usually sticks with his forecast through the year, and it's been really unusual to have to revise it so often. He said that he told his clients that he reserves the right to revise his forecast as often as the president changes his mind.
Yeah, I thought it was a great quote there in the lead of your story. What are we now expecting when you look across the sea of forecasts that you survey? What's the outlook for this minute in terms of stock market performance?
Yeah, so on average, most people are still expecting a modest gain. The really interesting thing, though, is a lot of strategists are highlighting the fact that the fundamentals here haven't really changed over at Barclays. Alex Altman there, he's the head of equities tactical strategist, said that he doesn't feel quite comfortable with stocks making all-time highs when some of the same issues that we've been facing are still here, when the 30-year U.S. Treasury is within a whisker of 5%, when the universal tariff rate right now is 14%. But you really can't fight the momentum, especially at Goldman Sachs. They say that U.S. equity positioning is still low, and that's kind of the case for more upside.
Yeah, we're not all too far from those all-time highs. You saw it in that chart over here.
Something like 3%.
Well, you're focused on the 2-year.
Yeah.
The 2-year yield,
Listen.
which is just over 4, right?
And the 10-year has been around 4.5%. And listen, if the bond market is telling you there's trouble, my question is, how long could the equity market shake off that concern for?
That's true. I guess we'll have to have Alex back on and ask her that question. Again, Alex Semenova, thanks so much for joining us from the Bloomberg Cross Assets desk. A check now on futures right now. We're looking at gains on the S&P 500, or at least we were 10 minutes ago. Let's bring up the chart and see here. Up 0.2%, almost 0.2 and more on the NASDAQ 100. And then the small caps, even though you had a call out from, what was it, Citi and JP Morgan saying, buy what's done poorly previously, the small caps, Russell 2000 at least, down. Coming up, President Trump wants the price of oil to come down between $40 and $50 a barrel. That's according to Goldman Sachs. More on that next. This is Open Interest.
All right. Boring. All right. Let's see what else we got. So it's it gets a little slow when there's little to talk about. Yeah, because we've got data. Walmart earnings later, I think Thursday afternoon. Mortgage applications this morning came in at 1.1%. But tomorrow we get Empire Manufacturing for May, so that'll be interesting. And then we get retail sales for April. That'll be interesting. PPI, that's probably going to come in high, I would imagine. So we'll see what happens there. Then very little in the way of data, though. So kind of quiet. Then we have, let's see here. Brazilian stocks at record high. Nice. Let's see. Stalling economy looks set to weigh on U.S. stocks. The economic backdrop is unlikely to give U.S. stocks much support, according to a Bloomberg intelligence model. The model, which gives a real-time read on the economy's cycle, found that while unemployment remains low, a few under-the-surface indications suggest it might be rising modestly. Well, I mean, that's the big red flag. This may weigh on consumption and limit a sales recovery for related S&P 500 industries. Consumer sentiment remains poor. With tariff impacts yet uncertain, the lack of visibility may start to weigh heavily on stocks. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too. I mean, that's kind of what I've been saying earlier in the live stream before we even saw this. There's still this. That's fine. Okay, what else here? History shows that the bear market doesn't get undone in a hurry. Oh, that's interesting. So I feel like we're out of a bear market now, but then again, who knows? It could always just be a little bear market rally. U.S. stocks have sprung back to life so emphatically as to suggest that it's business as usual in the economy again. Appearances may be deceptive, though. History is replete with examples of false sense of complacency setting in as bear markets begin, with pretty much every major decline from a peak witnessing a quick rebound. In all of those episodes, the initial relief rally faded and exposed investors to deeper losses in the longer term. Well, and that, yeah, I mean, that could happen as well. Mostly as we start actually getting some real data. This is why I've been such an advocate and proponent for trailing stops, but you have to have them wide enough, like you can't set a trailing stop on Tesla at 2% and expect not to get stopped out like in the middle of the day, right? Like index level, you set trailing stops, and this is not obviously personalized advice. You have to figure out your own levels and like what's right for you, if you even have them, right? Usually trailing stops are great for people who are like, if there's another crash, I wish I had a little bit more cash on the side. I wish I trimmed a little bit more from the top. The way you do that is simple. You just look at let's say you've got 100K in the queues and you're like, I take 30 in cash out. Okay, set a trailing stop for, good to sell or good to cancel 30K order and, set it at a 7% trailing stop. If the queues are down 7% again, that's a hit. But it could be an indication that you're heading back down to negative 30%, right? Or worse than what we had before. Same thing you could do on Tesla, except for Tesla, you probably, what do you want to see? Like, what's the most you'd see on downside rapidly? I don't know. You probably go like a -12 or 14% or something like that. So obviously a little bit more on a more volatile stock, and you can kind of like math that out how you want to do that. But I find that very interesting. Stay up, Kevin. You a real one. Thanks, Caleb. I like Kevin's work, but he sounds like Jerome Powell. I'm waiting to see. I love J Powell. I respect J Powell. And I know that sounds, that might sound boring, but I like the very Buffett approach. That's why I say I want to turn House Hack into our little Berkshire Hathaway, where, in the future, it's not just a real estate company, but it's just a conglomerate of really good cash flowing businesses, the way Buffett does. Conservative, cash yielding, asset yielding growth, asset rich. That's that's my 50-year vision, that House Hack's not just going to be houses in the future. So I'm very excited about that. But thank you for saying that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being patient. Do you think Coinbase runs for multiple days off recent news? Well, so you're talking about the S&P inclusion. Let me look at Coin. 24% yesterday. That's really impressive. Oh, that was a yesterday call, by the way, in the Alpha report. I said, watch the 244 level. We're going to be going to 244 in the Alpha report. We literally opened at 227 and we closed at 256. Yeah, that was a really good call on yesterday's Alpha report, by the way. And then we also said another Alpha report in the morning, and that stock shot up another like 10% during the day yesterday. So the Alpha report really just the last few days has just been killing it. Hopefully we could do it again today. But yeah, if you want to try the Alpha report, remember, you can sign up for 30 days if you want. Give it a shot. See if you like it. And if you don't. If you didn't have House Hack, what would you be doing in regards to stock? If I didn't have House Hack, it's a really good question. I mean, I have a whole host of stocks that I like. I don't really like these valuations, so I'd probably be in a relatively similar place where just like sit in cash. Again, there are some smaller companies that I like. So let's see what else here. Mostly because I like investing when there's really big pain. That's where a whole buy the dip thing came from, was in March of 2020. It's like, dude, Powell U-turned. You know what that means, right? So yeah. AMD. Well, AMD's moving with the Nvidia enthusiasm, the chip build out enthusiasm, and their last earnings were decent. AMD's been trading for like under a 0.7 peg for quite a while. I think it actually went up to like a 1 peg there as some of its estimates got written down. But AMD's just been trading in the toilet in terms of valuation. So, but anyway, let's go back to Doomberg for just a moment here.
Whole, it's not going to be wildly profitable for them to keep drilling into a market where, bear in mind, demand is also looking pretty shaky if you think about tariffs and the impact on buying from Asia in particular. So there's a lot of moving parts at the moment, especially when you think about OPEC Plus bringing back barrels. So the global market is starting to look rather oversupplied going into the second half.
And to make your point here for a moment, pulling up the S&P 500 sectors, you're seeing energy not being the worst performer. That would be consumer discretionary, but it's kind of been splat dab in the middle. It is flat on the year. It did not see that Trump bump that you might have expected on the heels of the election. Now, when you think about the supply demand dynamics of the oil market right now, what is going to be the biggest driver of that pricing that is not a Trump social media post?
It's probably going to be what OPEC Plus does. This was quite a big move from the producer group. Back-to-back months of increases of over 400,000 barrels a day. That's a significant amount of volume that's coming back to the market, and very quickly at that. So whether those volumes continue to come and how quickly they come, especially given what's going on with trade talks between the U.S. and China, I think those are the two big factors that the market is watching. If I had to say one more, it would probably be what happens with Iran, whether they achieve a nuclear deal. You saw yesterday President Trump talking in the Middle East and saying, once again,
that would be nice to deal with Iran.
Pressure on Iran if we don't achieve a deal. So that's a big variable for the market as well.
All right. Excellent reporting. Devika, thanks so much for joining us. Devika Krishna Kumar there covers oil for us on the BN side. A check on futures right now ahead of the opening bell. You can see we're looking at gains on the S&P futures of more than 0.2%. And remember that we closed out the day yesterday in the positive, up about 0.75%, and 3.25% was the gain on Monday. So we're really on a roll here. We wiped out the losses for the year, and we're back up to just under, on the cash trade, 5,900. Coming up, Morgan Stanley's Michelle Weaver is on the program. We'll tell you why she thinks 6,100 may be now in play for the S&P 500. This is a
6,100. S&P 500 to the moon.
PK and the Mentalist owes.
Oh, okay. There are commercial too. Okay. So, what else? Let's see here. We okay, just a bunch of ads. Very well. Intel Big W in the next years, the next Nvidia. I wouldn't say the next Nvidia. I think you would use a better analogy to say the next TSM, right? Because remember, while Intel, has been a big chip designer, they've really lost their competitive edge in chip designing, and they're moving more into chip manufacturing, which is not something that Nvidia does. They're also opening up to not just doing the x86 chips, but also doing the ARM-based chips, which are competitors to the Intel products. But yeah, pretty. Could it be another TSM? Maybe. They're very, very cheap. People have a lot of doubt about the company. And, they've got a lot of money going into those facilities. The problem is, even the CEO doesn't expect that you're actually going to see larger revenue from these facilities until 2030. So I think that hurts a little bit, where a lot of people say, I don't want to wait that long. And so there's more enthusiasm around other chip plays until then. But it's something I know. I get your analogy, and I think we can agree with the direction of your analogy there. What about United Health? I mentioned yesterday I don't know much about United Health, so I stay out of that. The insurance world I find is relatively complicated, so I don't have much of an opinion on that. And boy, I'll tell you, I'm more than willing to give you an opinion, but there's one I don't even know what to tell you. And then keep in mind there's a lot of just hatred in general for insurance companies. So I think, can you maybe eventually play a bounce on some momentum? Sure. But usually insurance companies aren't so sexy that they're easy to momentum up. Like a Palantir is like the perfect example of like sex appeal for folks, right? It's tech, it's AI, it's Elon, it's Trump, it's government involvement. I mean, it's just like everything that you want. As a beneficiary of Doge, there's just so much. That's great. CoreWeave's earnings coming up. That's another one to pay attention to. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, let me see here. What do they have going on here?
Hump day, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
Want to talk a little Merck in your mad dash?
As I said at the beginning of the show, there are stocks that are just going up and going up and going up. And there's nothing really new. David, here's a piece on Merck, downgrading it now. And I think David would say,
downgrading it now?
Now with a 4.2% yield, now with Keytruda, well known as
Where were these guys previously?
I don't know. I was at 11 Madison.
No, is it a buy? Is it a buy, or what are they going? What are they doing?
They were buy to hold.
Now they downgrade to neutral.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Now
they have WinRevere.
Citi, thank you so much for that. For that great insight. Now, not here. No, I'm not here. Now we're gonna do it.
You sound just like when you used to do Robinson from the Ten Commandments. You're back doing Edward G. Robinson. Okay, David, I just want to make this point that this is typical of what I'm seeing here. Everybody knows that Merck has been going down, so let's just join the fun and downgrade Merck. That is not what I call great work.
That's not rigorous.
Right. So I'm just saying that just as I find people who are now coming in and saying, you know what, AMD's great, same thing. Like Merck. This is Saint Merck. They're down 40%. Guy comes in and says, you know what? Now is
All right,
the
but
time.
what would be the counter argument at this point?
Okay,
then?
well, they have Winrevair, which is this pulmonary arterial hypertension drug, which is a lifesaver. They have Gardasil. Maybe that comes back. Remember, the Chinese,
They had a China
are
issue
sitting
with
on a huge
Gardasil,
amount of Gardasil. Suddenly,
right,
the Chinese
prevents cervical cancer.
Yeah, what would happen if
but
the Chinese
there's a
said,
lot
you know
of
what, let 1,000 Gardasil vaccines go?
Absolutely, but there is still focus on when Keytruda comes off patent. It's still
Right.
a number of years away.
2028, though, nothing
That
new there.
drug has saved so many lives.
Blah blah blah. Okay, a lot of yapping. It's just quiet news day. So Qs are holding up so far. Still 30 basis points. This is how we started yesterday. It's kind of remarkable. Yesterday we started the Qs up 30 basis points. We dropped a little bit in the first minute or two, but after that 30 basis point open that turned into like a 20 basis point open, the market just went straight up. I mean, you were up 1.5 on the Qs yesterday. Really, really impressive. So very, very interesting to see how this goes. So SB87 Wood says, if Jerome Powell is portrayed as Mr. Wait and See or late pile, why do people assume if the economy gets bumpy, there'll be emergency rate cuts? Well, I think people are regularly hopeful that Jerome Powell's capacity for cutting is very large and rapid, because of more recent experiences with the 2018 U-turn, 2020, the banking crisis. But to me, the single most important driver is not falling inflation. A lot of people on FinTwitter are like, oh, see, inflation's down, Fed should cut. Yeah, no, that's not what they're worried about right now. They're worried about over-tightening in the labor market. And that, if we have an over-tightening or a surge of hiring again because of enthusiasm in the stock market or whatever, that you could actually induce service inflation again. And that is your super core style inflation that's very difficult to fight with monetary policy. And that's what they do not want to do. So you have to be really careful about that. Somebody says, Kevin, are you inversing yourself and shorting markets? Patanjal must, honestly, did you not watch the video yesterday? Because what you're implying is that I'm a mega bull from my video yesterday. I don't think you watched the video. I think, you could do two things so I don't waste people's time who actually pay attention. You could go back and watch this video where I explain my position and where I am on the bear bull scale. Or you could actually watch the full video yesterday, and then you could be educated, and then you wouldn't leave a comment as stupid as that. Or, you could continue to not pay attention and just make yourself look foolish. But that's up to you. So why is the Dow not following the other indices? United Health is, a really big rock for what's going on in the Dow. Remember, Dow is Dow 30. It's just 30 stocks. So when one big Dow stock tanks hard, then there's something to pay attention to there. And the entire index gets hit, right? So I think that's very interesting. Yeah. So what else here? We've got a minute-ish to go until the bell. When's the Jerome Powell statue coming? Now let's see. It's made it a lot harder for Trump, for Powell, following the Trump tariffs. So we'll see. Let's see, what are they yapping about here?
500 watts, 2,500 out of the 500 gigawatts of computing infrastructure that's going to be built.
Nvidia's Jensen Huang yesterday in Saudi Arabia without the leather jacket, as the president said. Shares of AMD also moving higher on news of this new $6 billion buyback. That's in addition to the $4 billion as of the end of March, total of $10 billion, Jim.
Well, look, AMD now.
Alpha report's already out for today. If you're in the course, you should not only have it in Discord, but it's already, the notification already went out through the app as well.
ARM is taking it to Advanced Micro, who's taking it to Intel when it comes to servers. I think that this is just an inexpensive stock. And David, Lisa Su, once again, is going to be a competitor. You're not going to write her off.
No, I don't. Did anybody write her off?
She's Time CEO of the Year last year.
I said that texted her at that time, and it was a great event. Great event. She's so humble. Imagine she's so humble after all she's accomplished. What a great object lesson.
Let's get the opening bell and the CNBC real-time exchange. With the big board, it's Horace Mann Educators celebrating the 80th anniversary of its founding. At the NASDAQ, HashDex Asset Management celebrating the launch of the HashDex NASDAQ Crypto Index US ETF.
All right, so right now, I think if you notice, Palantir was up 2. Now it's barely up $1. And that's why I'm saying don't be leaping at these. Look, I thought Palantir's going to 200.
All righty, Dan. So now what do we have here? We've got holding on to 30 basis points on the good old Qs. You've got Super Micro dumping a little bit at the open. You've got Nvidia dumping a little. Just give it looks like a smaller give back here. Tesla, yeah, kind of. You know what? I always like to watch the first few minutes just to see directionally where things are going. Wow, Zim, really nice move on Zim. I don't think Tempest is going to hold on. You know, Tempest has been on a rocket ship of a rally here, but the first 2 minutes here getting hit a little bit. Q's now recovering. Let's see. Can it recover? It's up about 1.7 right now. It's really got to hold. Tempest really has to hold 70 here to keep going. Trade Desk has really slowed down on its move. Bitcoin's just been sideways the last 2 days. It just everybody moved over to trading stocks, and you know Bitcoin didn't want to move anymore, huh? That's all right. Celsius still in the 30s, although it's trying to recover. It's trying to get out of here. Monster was interesting. Some negative earnings there on their alcohol division. I thought it was very interesting. Probably their seltzers or whatever. So CoreWeave's up 5%. Oklo after I thought they had earnings yesterday. Actually rocking it up about 10%. You know what? Sam Altman dipped out of there. Is it today or was it yesterday? The earnings. Let me see. Let's just go to the little news tab here. Oklo. No large customer wins, Citi says. Oklo provides Q1 update, new CTO, targeting plan operations in early 2028. That's fine. Yeah, I think the energy move. Oh, good. Back to positive here on the Qs. I think the energy move is really overblown. And I think a lot of these small scale nuclear plants are kind of a waste. I think what we should have are like really big nuclear power plants. Like bring back the good stuff that we were building in like the 60s or 70s. You know, why that stopped, I don't know. We could be so self-sustained on nuclear energy, especially now with how safely you could build it. It blows my mind. But yeah, let's see what Tesla's still leaking a little bit. Amazon. Zim can't really hold on either. A little bit of a fade. There we go. Tempest holding on to 70 now. ARM. Oh, ARM's at 131. Look at this range ARM has been in. Sort of this lower 100 to 130 range. Palantir, all-time highs. A little bit of an inverse head and shoulders setup. A little bit. It's not the cleanest, but still no sign of U-turning on the Qs or Palantir yet, which actually probably is good for a Tesla bounce here. See what happens. Let's listen in here for a moment. We'll go to the course member live stream shortly.
It's allowed. I guess it's still not completely clear, and there is a national security review going on right now, right? The 232 review overall involving semiconductors.
But you also have the big Computex speech coming up. That's Nvidia. I thought that Nvidia came out well. Like I said, AMD was a winner, but ARM is back. Remember, people felt the ARM quarter wasn't Rene Haas. It was not a great quarter. Look where that stock is versus where it's so-called bad quarter.
Yeah, look at that. He came on with us last week as well. As you point out, the stock was down about 6-7% on that particular day.
I thought he put himself very well when he was on the show. I took a break from Belgian art
to watch. It does trade at a incredible multiple to revenues.
Everything trades at incredible multiples. Agreed. Bringing back large-scale nuclear power could transform ourselves. I completely agree with that. You know, I think you just need more of that. And it's surprising that that it seems like politicians are just anti, actually doing it, and it's really sad to see because I get it. Like energy infrastructure costs money, and like you're not going to see the benefits of it for a few years, but you got to start building now. So, kind of sad. Let's see here. End phase at 50. Yeah, I still think you're trending towards 35 on end phase. I'd just be cautious on that one. What's interesting is you've got, let's see here. Yeah, here's end phase. We'll look at that one briefly. So you can see the bleed down. I mean, pretty painful here. But I would say 35 is definitely possible here. Unfortunately, to see politicians demonize nuclear. Absolutely. Completely agree. Chainlink connects. Team up to bring bank payment rails to tokenized asset markets. Yeah, which is great, by the way. I think that's a big future. Like, keep in mind, tokenization is there's so much potential in minimizing the settlement bull crap that you have to wait for when it comes to broker dealer stuff. It would be so wonderful to see this. And yeah, I think, I don't know, I haven't looked into Constellation Energy myself, but like I said, I like big scale nuclear. I don't like small, but I do think right now valuations are a little extended on energy, at least when I've last looked at them, mostly because of the AI enthusiasm. So, a lot of the energy valuations are not at a substantially desirable place, in my opinion. But that's just my POV. So what else do we have here? We've got, so we looked at ENV. Let's go to Tesla. Hey, look at that. Tesla 343. Hey, that's like the Halo Studios. 343. I love it. So Tempest is rocketing. Yeah, what else is moving on here? Airbnb didn't really move much at all on their news. Qs, they're doing the same thing we saw yesterday, right? We're at 30 basis before. Then you're down about 20 bips, or down to about 20 basis points up, right? And then it's a rocket ship, the same movement as yesterday. But keep in mind, there's like almost no catalyst for a fade yet. Almost no catalyst. It's pretty impressive. So really, really fascinating to watch. Like one day the fade will begin again. And then of course, we have to watch what happens with the data. Because obviously it's too soon to tell that we're definitely out of the risk factors. But we'll see. Cloudflare, nice bounce on 151 here. All right, what are they saying over here? Looks like they're talking Palantir. Let me hear.
Was that what happened?
Karp was in the mix, as he always is.
He's always in the mix.
Talks a lot.
Respectful to the president.
I mean, I guess it's also points per, it's points per word said, and
didn't matter.
It's very high.
But this is interesting. He was a Democrat supporter, and it didn't matter.
No,
I think it's interesting.
Yes,
the Biden guy.
And was he
Harris guy?
Was he?
Yeah, but it didn't matter.
When you're privatizing a lot of the economy, that'll change your political views.
He's Doge's man, and by the way,
Doge's man.
Congratulations to Dr. Oz, because I think he's going to come in and put the wood to some of the Medicare problems. I
think that's a great way to paint, Palantir and Karp. This idea about being Doge's man. Totally agree. I mean, Palantir is like exactly what you want if you're trying to get more efficiency at especially entities with large data sets. So totally agree with that characterization.
Healthcare was great in 2018.
Broadly, by the way, I'm seeing quite a few more red candles at the moment. And quite a few just in like the last minute here, right? So it's just a little bit of coordination across multiple stocks here. Not just the Qs, Nvidia, Supermicro, but also some of the others. Who knows? Could just be a little bump.
Represents, I don't know if you saw the piece today in the FT about the Chinese saying we're ganging up against the British. Well, DeOrio is going to reassert himself on the national security issue.
Yeah, meantime, Colombia deal.
How dare you even speak the name Navarro? The markets don't like that.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think that's what we got. We're going to jump on over to the course member live stream, and we'll do some analysis on the alpha report we had this morning, and then we'll catch up on some fundamental analysis as well, maybe some real estate analysis on top of that. So we will see you all. I wish you all a farewell until the next time, my friends, and see you then. Yes, I'm gonna go make another cup of coffee, and then I'll be in the course live. So give it like 2 minutes, and we'll be there. All right. That said, anyway, yeah, thanks for hanging out and watching. We'll see what happens. El market. Let's finish it off with a quick little look. Yeah, few little red candles there. Just keep an eye on, and talk more on the course live. All right, folks. See you later. Goodbye. Good luck out there.